Wow. Talk about daunting to follow that. I mean, it's like, I'm going to bring you back down off of the mountaintop now, back down to earth, but I could not ask for a better tee-up to what I'm going to be talking about than what Thelma just started with. That so much of what holds us back in our own lives, in our personal lives, in our professional lives, is just how we look at things. It's everything. It creates our reality. So, what on earth qualifies me to talk about perspective? When Shelley talked to me about speaking at this conference, I thought, oh, they want to hear about healthcare or something, and I could do that talk in my sleep, and sometimes probably do. But when she asked me to talk about this kind of topic, this is about like lessons learned through life. And what qualifies me to speak on this is I've made a few trips around the sun, about as many as Shelley has. And with those trips around the sun, I have fallen down a few times. And I've learned some lessons about what has held me back just because of how I viewed things. It was within me the whole time. It's like a Wizard of Oz moment to figure out that so much of what could take away from or add to our lives is already within us to control. So today we're going to talk about controlling your perspective, changing your perspective, and your ability to change not only your own world, but be more impactful in changing the world around you. Perspective makes all the difference. There are interactions and experiences that we have all day, every day, and there's cold, hard facts about those interactions and experiences. But what's not cold, hard fact is how we take them in, how we view them. It's entirely subjective, what we decide to make of it. And I really love this quote by Steve Maraboli that really kind of points out something that is very true. While the sun continues, the sun never really sets, in fact. It just makes circles around the earth, but from our perspective, we see it set, and we say the sun sets. It's all a matter of perspective. For someone else, the sun is rising. The cool thing about perspective, and I forgot to mention, these first 3 slides were sort of gratuitous sharing of my photography that they shared in the introduction. I love, and what energizes me, is getting out in nature and being able to photograph its beauty. I often venture out there alone, and so photographing it allows me to share with community, here's what I got to see, and isn't it cool? So the cool thing about perspective is you do control it. Now, I'm not standing up here as any kind of an expert, like I've spent 10,000 hours on healthcare, for sure. Some have called me an expert, and I've argued with them that I'm not. But the fact that I could do a talk about that in my sleep says, yeah, I've invested those 10,000 hours. This is something that I'm a work in progress, trying to master even my own perceptions of things and how, just how I view an interaction goes on to affect how I respond, and then a chain reaction from there. So, for example, look at this photo. To me, I look at this photo and I think of probably the best photography day of my life. Over Memorial Day this year, I took a solo trip over to Grand Teton National Park and ventured around, and one day paid a guide to take me out to where I might be able to see bears safely. So when I look at this photo, this is the first moment that I saw grizzly bears in the wild, and I stood next to my favorite all-time wildlife photographer, Thomas Mangelson, and I was photographing a mama grizzly, who's nicknamed Blondie, and her 2-year-old cubs as they had come out of hibernation, and every year they come out and graze on the biscuit root flower after they've come out of hibernation. This would probably be the summer that she would kick her cubs to the curb and say, it's time for you to rove on your own. But I got to witness this, and to me, this was awesome. To somebody else that's looking at this photo for the first time and imagining being there, sheer utter terror. This is a mother grizzly bear. In fact, all 3 of these could whoop your butt. So it's all in how you look at it. So as I go through the rest of this presentation, the metaphor I'm going to use for our perception is glasses. So most of you have probably been to the eye doctor and had the experience of, at one time or another, being fitted for glasses of some kind, and had the experience of this lens or this lens. Is this lens better or this lens? So that's really kind of, as I looked at how do we make choices in how we perceive things, that's how we're going to look at it. So we're going to start with this. And what Molly talked about at lunchtime, the self-doubt thing that kicks in, the self-doubt that I had about talking about any topic other than healthcare or grizzly bears. We have this moment of, oh my God, at some point, these people are going to realize I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm not qualified to do this. We have those moments a lot of the time, and I think women probably struggle with them a bit more than our male counterparts do. It's a self-esteem thing. It's an insecure feeling. Throughout this talk, I will frequently mention some of the learnings that I've had from a couple of really awesome thought leaders. One is Brené Brown. Shout out for Brené Brown fans. The next is Jen Sincero, and she has authored several books, but one is You Are a Badass. And a quote that she had around that really resonated with me around this is, it's just as easy to believe that we are awesome as it is that we are giant sucking things. So why is it so hard to believe that we're worthy? That we're worthy of playing the roles that we play? I would tell you that motherhood is probably one of the most significant areas where I felt like an imposter for a long time. I never pictured myself as a mother. And yet, when I became one, you step into it, you learn it, and I think throughout the whole process, you're thinking at some point, somebody is going to figure out, I don't really know what I'm doing here. Everything is new. You constantly feel like you're falling down, making mistakes. But truly, you're worthy of the roles that you play. You're worthy of being able to stumble, fall down, pick yourself back up, and try it again. Truly, that's the only way we ever succeed and grow. So, besides being our own worst critic, there are plenty of real-life critics out there too, aren't there? Just be on social media and get out there and do something with your life, and they'll come out. And I think Brené Brown's vulnerability work and courage work really resonated with me. And after she did her first TED Talk, and then it went viral, and she had no clue that any more than a couple hundred people would ever hear her bare her soul in Houston. But when she read the online comments and people were criticizing her appearance and downplaying her motherhood and all that kind of stuff, she very much took it to heart, but then came across a quote that I believe is a Roosevelt quote about it's not the critic who counts. And to take very seriously and with a very critical eye who you allow to give you feedback. That if there are people that are not out there getting their butt kicked in the arena with you, don't be interested in their feedback. If they are armchair quarterbacks who just want to criticize how you look, or you should have done this, or you should have done that, but they are not out there being brave with their lives and being seen, leave it. There are plenty of other good people who are out there being brave to take feedback from, but be careful who you accept it from. So next, there's this piece about how we view people in general and whether we assume good intentions of others. There's plenty of bad behavior that happens out there, but we are super quick to play judge and jury and convict. And I spend plenty of my working life working at the Capitol, and among the legislative circles, I see an awful lot of judge and jury convicting people. But the truth is, we don't know what brought a person to the place where they say what they say or they do what they do. We may not understand their behavior, but if we can bring ourselves to a place of empathy and curiosity and just understand that by the grace of God, it could be you in their shoes. I was born into the position I was born into, pretty low-income upbringing, but my parents worked hard and they taught me good values and that kind of thing, and I have been in a position to take advantage of opportunity. There are others who aren't as fortunate in the circumstances that they're handed in life. So, assuming good intentions, if we can bring ourselves to do that and even just believe that people are out there doing the best they can with what they have, our life improves. Isn't it easier to know that we're coming from a place of love? So this has been my personal mental health challenge myself. Anxiety. I am a worrier. I do it with as good as anybody can. But as much as I might keep myself up at night worrying about what's going to happen tomorrow, that's tomorrow. I don't have that right now. What I have is right now. And the one practice that can keep you in now is gratitude. So what I have learned is when I find myself in those spun up moments where I'm worried, a few minutes ago sitting back there waiting to go on stage, I'm getting worried, I stop and breathe and think of 3 good things. The 3 good things practice is about the best sleep aid I have ever come across. I will jot them in my phone before I go to sleep. 3 good things that happened today. It might be a good taco that I had for lunch. It might be that one of my daughters said something really caring and supportive to me or made me proud. Anything. Just 3 good things, but you can't be anxious while you're being grateful. The work-life balance. The key here is which lens you choose as to whether or how you balance your work and home life, your personal life. Nobody else gets to decide. It's yours. You do you. Now, for me, I have discovered after a period of maybe extending myself too much into work and investing too much of my mental energy there, that I needed to get more life into my life, thus the photography, which came from a walking habit before that, which I still do, but it's truly a gift to be able to go re-energize yourself doing something outside of work. The key is, don't think that you're going to regret when you're at the end of your life looking back on the balance that you chose. When you're looking through your lenses now, think about what you're giving up for the choice that you're making, and is that a choice of love and a choice that you will be proud of later on? So, we're wired for struggle. But we often, and I think when Thelma was up here, she saw that goal that she had of starting a support group as a really high hill to climb. But if you have a dream and you can break that down into chunks, and the chunk that she made was step up here with Shelley and allow herself to be seen. She allowed herself to be seen, and that was chunk number 1 of getting to her goal. You all were another part of that goal. But the thing is, we often shy away from things that are really hard, and we think, that's just like, I can't do that. For me, my current one is getting to Africa. With my photography addiction, like going on an African safari is just awesome, but it's also sort of a pipe dream. But the one change that I am trying to make is getting myself to a point where I'm going to chunk that down and I'm going to make it happen. Because tomorrow isn't guaranteed. Like, it's not something to just say, oh, when I retire, I'll do that. Who knows if I'll have my health then? Who knows what the political situation will be then? We don't know any of that. So the thing is to recognize we're wired for struggle, we can do hard things, and furthermore, when parenting, and this is really important, that we not protect our children from struggle. Now, there's a difference from allowing your kids to face struggle and to grow from that. There's a difference between that and allowing them to face trauma. I do want to make that distinction. We don't want to allow our kids to go through trauma. But should they be able to kind of wrestle with some things? Friendship issues, school, applying for scholarships. There are so many parents that are doing all these things for their kids now. And those kids are going to be hampered in the future in their ability. So this is a tough one for anybody that's had their heart seriously broken. Twice for me. Serious heartbreak. And you continue to put yourself out there, but you armor up. It's really hard to remain vulnerable, but that's the only way that you will find a way forward and find new love. I heard a quote by the great philosopher of our time, Taylor Swift, the great love philosopher, that is, let your heart remain breakable, but never by the same hand twice. So that is another challenge. Along those lines, if you are one of those who is rocking it solo, you have a choice in how you view that. I know an awful lot of people that if they are single, or even if you're married, but it's a weekend where your spouse is away, you feel like you can't go do something by yourself because it's sad. And I will say that society doesn't make it easy on single people sometimes. Like, I have gotten to the point in my singlehood where I am perfectly happy to take myself out to dinner. I love Matador, and I love taking myself out there, but there's that moment when you walk in the door and the hostess looks at you as a single person and says, is it just you? Or just one? And then they will try to seat you in the bar. So it's a conscious choice to decide that you being on your own is a huge opportunity to be exquisitely you. In our political environment, there's a lot of serious divides. We have a lot of issues to address. You have the choice to be cynical, roll your eyes, check out, criticize. Or you can get in there, let your voice be heard, and be a part of the solution. We have a scarcity mindset with our time, with our money, looking at ourselves and whether we are pretty enough, smart enough, thin enough, any other thing. You have the choice of whether you see yourself as enough and what you have as enough. There are different kinds of power. There's power over. That's not what I'm going to talk about today. Power within, power to create, power to teach, power to inspire. Step into your power rather than thinking you have none. We have an unlimited abundance of power. So I'll end with your choice of lenses. Will you choose the lens that opens up possibilities for you, where you remain open, engaged, worthy? Or will you choose the lens that closes things in for your life? I can guarantee you, if you choose the lens that opens possibilities up for you, you can change your world, the reality of it, and you can change the world around you. So, in all of this, I just encourage you, as you choose lenses, choose a lens of love.